We talked to Butch and Steven about how you handle this new world, house settlement, roster. How have you guys approached it as a football staff with these changes and everything that's being ready?
Yeah, it's quite different. It's first of all, you want to make sure you are operating with what the settlement says, and we think we are. You know, we're going by what we believe to be the accurate interpretation of it. It's not really to our advantage to what we're doing right now, but because others, I think, are operating in a different manner. But the main thing is that I don't think people understand is retaining your current roster, and that affects. It used to not affect high school recruiting. You were going to sign your 20 to 25 guys, but now with the salary cap, you have to look at a room like our wide receiver room, where on paper we're not losing a single kid, and we've got to retain those guys because I like that room a whole lot. And so you don't have the means, so to speak, to go after the number of high school receivers that you would normally go after, because you can't really. I mean, again, on paper, we're not losing one, and I don't want to lose one. I really like that room. I love our young D linemen, and so it's kind of difficult to really, you're sitting here trying to sign a class when you really don't know what your current roster will be in January. And so that's a challenge, but you have to operate within the manner of what the settlement really says and the interpretation that we've received, and that's what we're doing. And we're talking about a staff that's put together 2 top 10 classes, and here we are. We're really not in that realm right now. Do I think we will be in December? I do. I believe that wholeheartedly. We had over 50 visits in June, and I thought, most families felt like, man, this is a great place to be. But we've got to figure all this other out, and I know John's going to talk more in depth about the parameters to which we're operating. But it is more challenging for sure. But the main thing to me is retaining our current roster and then filling the gaps with obviously elite talent from whether it's the portal or high school recruiting. But retaining that roster does affect the way you approach recruiting, and that's new. That used to not be the case. I mean, you were going to sign some kids and figure out the numbers on the back end, but you can't do that when you have to be under the revenue sharing cap.
Coach, you guys just signed Jacoby Matthews at safety yesterday. How are you guys going to assess that group? That's a loaded position group now.
Yeah, I mean, Jacoby, guy talent-wise, I mean, the guy's a 5-star talent, and obviously he did not own up to the responsibilities that you have and the accountability that you should have. We had some great heart-to-hearts. I believe with all my heart that he understands this is his last chance, and he didn't do anything that, I mean, he just did not receive the blessing that he had at his previous school, and I think he's learned a lesson, and adding another elite safety to that group is beneficial to us. So we're excited to give him a chance.
2 on the left.
Hugh, I was going to ask you about Xavier Chaplin. People have been talking about him as an early round NFL guy this offseason. I know he didn't get to go through the spring, but what do you guys think y'all have in him, and what he can bring to y'all, especially as a left tackle?
Yeah, I would say, I want to give a shout out to Will Redmond and his crew. I think they do a great job of evaluating talent. He was the top ranked tackle for us in the portal, and we haven't gone through spring with him, but just looking at all the summer workouts, I mean, the length and the footwork that he has, it changes us. It allows us to move D Wade inside full time, and so I think he is an all SEC type performer when I watch him move around. We hadn't played a game, hadn't practiced yet, but love his mentality. Mason's also, by the way. I think we got 2 legit guys there that have played elite football at a high level, and I think that changes us. We really hadn't had that in our time here.
Hugh, do you feel like in the middle of all the change that's been happening with the house settlement and how it affects high school recruiting, do you feel like Auburn's pitch has been, like to high school kids and their family, has it been effective over the past, say 30 days or so? Or how would you kind of assess kind of your approach?
I think the families love Auburn. I know they do, and I'm confident of that. And I think they love the atmosphere within our building and the culture that we've created there. There's a lot of factors that go into high school recruiting, and I do think it will all play out in the long game, and we'll be in more battles than we are currently in people's eyes. Once things shake out and everybody knows what's what on the reality of revenue sharing and outside NIL deals and all of that, I think once we get to the facts of all of that, I think we'll be in the game for many top players.
I've got 4 more quick ones. Brian, go ahead. You talked about your feeling that you can still sign a top 10 class. Is it going to be a little bit different though how you go about it than it was the last 2 classes?
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, again, you have to look at your current roster, and you're trying to manage the revenue sharing cap. And when you look at a room and you don't have really on paper anything available, that's challenging. And so it's not like the last few years where there was no cap and you went after the best players and you didn't really worry about the numbers but if my understanding is correct from everything we've heard, the penalties for going over the cap are not fun. And so you have to manage that. And when you're looking at rooms in our place, like the quarterback room or the wide receiver room or the D-line room, where we're not losing many players at all on paper, and we like them, it's really hard to just go out and be free like we were the last few years to go and recruit kids. So we're really big on never being deceitful or misleading, and maybe that hurts us a little initially, but we always want to operate with these families with great transparency, and I think it will pay off in the long run.
I was going to ask you kind of answered it, but how confident were you in the approach to how you're approaching the house settlement, what you're interpreting, other people are doing it differently, or do you feel good about, or do you leave it up to the administration, or do you feel good about the approach as well?
I mean, it's hard to feel great when you're not one of the top ranked recruiting classes, and I think Auburn should be. But I'm confident in our administration and the way that they lead, and trust them immensely that we're doing things the right way. And at the end of the day, that's really what we have to do, in my opinion, is we can't put ourselves in jeopardy of we've got great interpretations from our administration and our legal team on what the settlement really means and how we should operate, and that's what we're doing. And if others are operating in a manner not with that, I'm hopeful that they'll be called out on that at some point. But it does seem kind of strange that we're like some of the lowest range of numbers. I mean, we're like really low compared to some, and I'm trying to figure that out. But I do think it'll shake out in the long run. But it is complicated, and hard to sit there and feel great about. But I feel great about our relationships, and I feel great about Auburn, and I know the families know that, and I do think just after we win games this fall, which I'm confident we will, I think it'll all kind of shake itself out.
Coach, let's go back to the current roster. I mean, the receivers get all the press, it seems like. Talk about the running back room. And it's going to look different this year with Jarquez being gone and probably more by committee.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think Jeremiah Cobb's going to have a breakout year. I think he's super talented, great long speed, and I just don't think he's had enough touches to show what he really can do. Obviously, Austin is a solid back in every manner, can do it all. And Darrell, I think, didn't get to see him in the spring, sort of like X, but love what I see from him right now in summer workouts. And he's got the body type. It looks the right way. And, he's got some good tape from UConn. So do think it'll be those three mainly. Obviously, Alvin is, I got a bright future, and he might surprise us early on, and Omar. But I think that room is solid. I don't know that people would look at it and say it's elite, but I don't think there's any way that would be the reason we don't win football games. I think they're very capable, and they're great teammates too. DeMar is one of the greatest leaders we have.
Cross one back left.
Jackson told us back in the spring that he turned down a chance to go to the Manning Passing Academy, which was last week. What have you seen from his leadership and just gelling with the guys so far?
Yeah, that was difficult for me because Archie's a good friend of mine, and obviously I got the call, but when I talked to Jackson, he was just adamant, man, I just don't want to miss a day of throwing with my guys. And I've been to the Manning camp twice, and the most important thing for me is to be with my teammates, and I've got to respect that, and Archie did also, and that's what I've seen from him. And I think his confidence has grown and grown and grown since he's been here, and having those receivers to throw to is helpful. But I'm excited about what Jackson brings to the table to lead us. I really am. I think he's a confident, talented young man, and someone I believe in strongly.